Because being a king apparently is not enough, Donald Trump wants to be Pope as well. In a bizarre Truth Social post late on Friday, Trump posted a picture of himself donned in the Pope's regalia. Is very strange. A few days before the conclave convenes at the Vatican to choose a new Pope in the wake of Pope Francis's passing, this is how Trump is engaging with this very important decision for an institution, a deeply flawed and problematic institution, but one that is critical to the lives of people all around the world. And here we have Donald Trump inserting himself, as he is prone to do, into this melee as the Catholic community tries to figure out where it will head next after a pope that many acknowledge as an important actor for progress, recognizing the plight of immigrants worldwide, recognizing the importance of responding to climate change. And the U.S. Catholic community has been following this closely, particularly the far right bishops that make up the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, and as part of a long-term effort to reshape the direction of the Catholic Church, to do things like overturning the Vatican II, to bring back these arcane, very patriarchal, very rigid fundamentalist ideas. And I think Trump digging into this has really complicated things for that community. We can see, in the immediate aftermath, he was rebuked by the Catholic Church in New York, Archbishop Timothy Dolan, who just a few days later, Trump had effectively endorsed to become Pope. He even Dolan comes out and criticizes this move, saying, that wasn't good. Because what I think Trump is doing is very much complicating these long-term efforts involving the very same people who spent decades trying to insert their theocratic ideas into U.S. law through judicial capture and through Leonard Leo's Opus Dei power broking network. To dig into this really important, really complex and nuanced evolution, I wanted to bring on our friend, Gareth Gore, the author of this incredible book, Opus, which digs into the birth of Opus Dei in Franco's fascist Spain and the growth of this power organization within the Catholic Church and beyond. It digs so much into how Leo built his power and influence in the United States and manipulated constitutional law through these justices, the cult of dark money, human trafficking, and right-wing conspiracy inside the Catholic Church. Observing what's happening here, Gareth commented recently that the ultra-conservative wing of the U.S. Catholic Church, a group made up of cardinals, bishops, priests, and wealthy individuals, has spent years preparing for this precise moment. And in these days leading up to the conclave, we've seen how that has started to take root. Gareth Gore, thank you so much for joining us, for your extraordinary journalism reporting on Opus Dei, on how it is working to capture the Catholic Church, just as it has captured the U.S. Supreme Court and beyond. How are you processing this moment? How do you see things shaking out in these days leading up to the all-important conclave?
Well, Alex, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here again. I mean, you mentioned there the photograph that was posted by Trump the other day of him as Pope, and it's an extraordinary thing to be doing, and really quite kind of offensive, I think, to many Catholics around the world. I mean, you mentioned there that Cardinal Dolan, who is a big favorite of Donald Trump's and kind of certainly on the conservative wing of the Catholic Church, even he came out and said that it was perhaps an inappropriate thing to do. But I think, Trump is the provocateur in chief. He loves to provoke. And I think part of it was a joke. But I think there's a very serious element to it as well. And that's that, Trump and many of those around him think that they're part of this huge pivot in the kind of in history. This is a very important turning point for them, and they're part of this conservative reactionary revolution that's pushing back on the the progress that we've had over the past 50 to 100 years on so many issues. And they want to turn the clock back on many of that. Now Pope Francis, throughout the throughout the two Trump presidencies, was a real thorn in the side of the administration. He really called out Trump and Vance in particular on a number of their policies. Vance famously was at the Vatican the weekend before the Pope passed. And on his first visit to the Vatican, he was actually given a dressing down by the Pope's number two. He was given this lecture on compassion. The message being that, some of the policies being pushed through by the administration were not Christian, and were not, I guess, in line with with the faith that JD Vance supposedly has. And so I think they're looking to this election for the next pope, as they're hoping that the next pope will be more, I guess, in keeping with this conservative revolution that they have going on. And there have certainly been machinations for the past few years, and more recently as well, to try to ensure that the next pope is, I guess, more in tune with that. I mean, there are a number of wealthy, influential Catholics in the US who have been using their money and their power to try to influence the next conclave. I mean, that's without a doubt, that's been going on for the past kind of 5-6 years. There was this thing called the Red Hats Report, which was due to be launched at a big event in New York that was due to be attended by Leonard Leo, Rick Santorum, Scott Hahn, all of these people affiliated to Opus Dei, and also Tim Bush, who is a big Opus Dei donor. And this so-called Red Hat Reports campaign, what it aimed to do was recruit former FBI agents, former CIA agents, to basically kick up the dirt, to find compromise on possible liberal candidates to succeed Pope Francis. They were hoping to collect this information and to distribute it widely. And I'm absolutely certain that right now at the Vatican, dossiers are being handed out with all kinds of dirt and scandal on potential liberal candidates. This is part of an orchestrated effort to try to ensure that the next Pope will be conservative and will be kind of part of this wider kind of reactionary revolution that's kind of growing in parts of the world.
That's striking, and the parallels you can see to the tactics that we see at play here in the States against liberal judges, for example, who have been nominated by Democratic presidents, digging up purported dirt and driving smear campaigns against them, using sort of these political dark arts to plant false narratives and drive disinformation campaigns. We saw these just appalling smears against somebody like Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson during her nomination that had very clear connections to Leonard Leo's network. And here he is applying the same strategies to a confirmation, a selection in this conclave that we know he cares a lot about. And it also comes against the backdrop of what was a real power struggle going on between Pope Francis's leadership and this insurgent, hard-right, traditional Catholic, Opus Dei connected contingent at the church, where Francis was incrementally making more and more progress in sort of checking and sidelining Opus Dei and some of its key power players. There was this guy Vigano who was stationed in the United States who Francis effectively charged with schism and removed from the church. There's a Peruvian priest that you've been tracking and writing about, Juan Luis Cipriani, who was formally rebuked and disciplined by Pope Francis, and who, and I thought, a really alarming and revealing demonstration of defiance of this world that Francis had tried to manifest, this kind of post-Vatican II, more progressive direction, showed up and nominally paid his respects to Francis, but in straightforward defiance of the very discipline that Francis had handed down. Can you tell us more about what's going on there and what we could read into that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, just to come back to this effort in the States, I mean, a lot of the people behind this kind of project to influence the next conclave, they're used to being able to use their money and their wealth to dictate the conversation, to shift the conversation towards this kind of reactionary agenda that has given us Trump and has given us a very different outlook in the US. Um, for many years, they've used their money and, in particular, the kind of the loose campaign law, the campaign finance laws in the US to shift the conversation, and they're hoping to do exactly the same at the Vatican. But I mean, we can get onto this in a while. I think that they'll ultimately be unsuccessful, but let's see. But yeah, it's pretty clear that there are all kinds of dirty tricks going on right now to try to influence who the next pope is. A lot of these people, a lot of these wealthy Americans, these ultra conservative Catholics, and let's not forget that they do not represent the wider American Catholic population. I mean, in a recent poll done by, I think, Pew Research, they asked people what they made of Francis, and 80% of American Catholics had a favorable opinion of Pope Francis's papacy. These people have been staunchly opposed to everything that Francis stands for ever since day one, and they've used every kind of weapon at their disposal to really undermine him. So they've been giving voice to, you mentioned that Cardinal Vigano, this guy who was just last year excommunicated from the church because of his work to undermine the Vatican and the papacy. He was spreading all kinds of crazy rumors about Francis, about how he had covered up sexual abuse scandals. He even spread this rumor that the Pope had this secret love child hidden away in Rome somewhere as well. I mean, kind of extraordinary stuff. But these rumors were fueled by many of these arch-conservative wealthy Catholics. On places like EWTN and all kinds of kind of right-wing Catholic media. So to come back to what you were saying about this Opus Dei cardinal, this guy called Cipriani. So he was rebuked by Francis a few years back after allegations of sexual abuse were brought against him. The allegations were that he'd sexually abused a minor in the 1980s. This victim had come forward, tried to report this thing to Opus Dei. Opus Dei refused to even talk to him. And so he eventually took it to the Pope, and the Pope took action. So the Pope stipulated that this Opus Dei cardinal, Cipriani, he was banned from wearing his cardinal robes, and he was banned from making any public statements as effectively as a punishment for what had happened. Now, when Pope Francis died, within a couple of days, this cardinal was photographed standing over the dead body of Pope Francis, wearing his cardinal robes and making a clear public statement, a really provocative, defiant act. And for me, it's kind of, I think it's quite illustrative of the intent of this kind of conservative faction of the church to say, our moment is back. This is our chance to reshape the church. I mean, one thing that was quite striking for me as well was the victim of this guy, of this alleged abuse. He was contacted by El País, a Spanish newspaper, and asked what he made of these images of the cardinal standing there above the dead body of Francis. And the victim said, to me, the message is clear. The Pope is dead, and now it's time to get the party restarted. The conservative wing of the church quite clearly see this as an opportunity to turn the clock back, to really unpick a lot of the reforms and a lot of the opening up of the church that's been pushed by Francis. They want to take the church back to darker times.
And Gareth, I think reading between the lines, our audience can probably suss out why we're digging into this, but folks might have questions, right? This is a podcast about constitutional issues, law, and politics here in the United States. Why are we talking about the conclave in the Vatican? This is all coming to a head right here in the United States very clearly, right? We've got the U.S. Supreme Court, the Roberts majority, selected by Leonard Leo, who's deeply connected to this network of far-right Catholics who are seeking to shape and turn around, bring back, as they've done through Project 2025 and Trump and the court, bring back the law to sort of medieval times, or bring back the Catholic Church to medieval times, bring back the U.S. law to medieval times. And you can see, as this court continues to erode the line between separation of church and state, likely driving home a fatal blow in forcing public funds, taxpayer funds, to go to religious schools in a major case this term out of Oklahoma. If they are able to also take control of the Vatican and have the official directive of the Catholic Church further that agenda, who knows? God only knows, I suppose, where this all ends up in terms of the imposition of far-right fundamentalist theocracy, a fundamentalist Catholic jihad, effectively, is what I think they're trying to have us live under. You see the combination of efforts to shape the religious doctrine and also cement control of government institutions to apply it. Does that seem right?
I mean, it is extraordinary. I mean, right from the very beginning, Opus Dei, the founder of Opus Dei, basically tasked his members with infiltrating every element of society: the judiciary, the world of politics, the world of business, the world of journalism. And, we've begun to see that in the US, that, this slow erosion of the separation of state and church. The MAGA movement is fueled in large part by traditionalist, kind of fundamentalist, not just Catholics, but evangelicals as well. I mean, a big part of the kind of Trump base is made up of these people who are staunchly religious and who want to turn the clock back. And, they have gained power. They have the executive in their pockets. They have Congress in their pockets. But also there are behind the scenes efforts to try to take this revolution to other parts of society. And so, this war that we've had against the universities is part of this culture. It's part of this wanting to erode these checks and balances that we've had for generations now. It's about trying to and what we're seeing in the church as well. I mean, for so many some of the past few years, the Pope Francis has really been a thorn in the side of the administration. He's been the one that's called them out. I mean, people like J.D. Vance and Trump have been trying to talk about how their policies are completely in line with their beliefs. I mean, J.D. Vance famously was trying to use all kinds of Catholic readings to try to kind of justify why they were rounding up families and kicking them out. And the Pope called him out on it. The Pope sent this letter to the US bishops, which was clearly a kind of a dressing down of Vance and an explanation as to, about how the way he had interpreted these documents was completely wrong, and that what they were doing was completely out of line with Catholic teaching. And then when Vance visited the Vatican a couple of weekends ago, he got this dressing down from the Pope's number 2 and given this lecture on compassion. I think for the last few years, certainly through the papacy of Francis, for these people driving forward this reactionary agenda and using religion to get people on board, it's been an uncomfortable relationship with the Vatican, and now they see this opportunity to really get one of their guys into the top job, in the hope that suddenly this kind of thorn in their side will go away, and that this hugely influential institution will be supportive of their agenda and their efforts to really shake up society and to really kind of wind the clock back.
Well, Gareth Gore, thank you so much for joining us, for your incredible insights. I always learn so much from digging into this stuff with you. It remains incredibly important and relevant to our daily lives. I know that you didn't even, seek this out, right? You sort of found your way by detour into this crazy world of dark money and religious power broking and theocracy that has seemed to have fallen on all of our laps. So I applaud you and thank you for taking on this challenge. I know it's not easy. I know you've had some powerful foes try to muffle and silence you because you've gotten really to the heart of such an important dynamic that they have really, really worked hard to keep behind the veil of secrecy and darkness. So thank you for joining us. Everybody, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our work here at Legal AF with Court Accountability Action. Check out our website at courtaccountability.org. Make sure you're following us on Substack. We got a new Substack with Legal AF, and we got one at Court Accountability at Tilted Scales. We'll have those in the show notes. I got this book right here. This is the best read I got to process last year. It remains incredibly important and page turning, super fun and interesting. Fun is maybe a stretch, but Gareth, really well done with the book, and thanks again for your time. I'd love to stay in touch and keep tracking this as we see how this important situation plays out. So until next time.
Thank you for having me on, Alex. If you want to follow me on X, I'm at Gareth_Gore. I'm also on Blue Sky as well. So yeah, great to be. Always a pleasure to come on and talk to you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Gareth. See you next time.
I'm Michael Popak, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touches Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popak Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popak Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popak Firm today at 1-877-POPAK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopakfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popak Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.